Community. We're so excited to be back with one of our alumni today. Ty is joining us, and he was a part of our QA program. We're really excited to have him on and talk a little bit about his journey with TripleTen, along with his job search journey and how he ended up getting a job in tech after he graduated from our program. So we're going to give him a couple minutes, get him to jump onto this stream. If you have questions for Ty about his job search or how he got into tech, or even thoughts on the program, please feel free to drop them in the chat. We'd be happy to answer them closer to the end of the stream. And for those joining today, we would love to hear where you're joining from. So if you are a European country, we'd love to hear the city that you're joining from today, just everywhere around. And I know that Ty will be with us shortly here. Hi, Ty. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing well. How are
Good.
you?
I'm so glad that we could connect, and I'm so
Yeah.
excited to talk about your journey today. I think it's going to be such a fantastic conversation.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome. Well, do you want to maybe start off by introducing yourself, kind of how you found TripleTen, a little bit about your background, and to some.
Yeah. Um, I found TripleTen actually through a ad on Instagram. I was working a support role, and with me wanting to get married, and I was needing something to where I was actually going to be able to advance because the current role I had, there wasn't really room for improvement. And in my experience, I've done QA before because I had an associate's in computer programming, and I did a small internship for a company in Atlanta testing websites. So I was really wanting to get back into QA, and I happened to see the ad. I did some research. I looked through, I believe, like Career Karma, looked at Glassdoor, found places that actually had reviews, and looked at what TripleTen offered with other than what other boot camps did, and based off the timeline, the 5-month program, it was longer than others. So I felt like I wouldn't be rushed to complete projects. I would have time to review the lessons. And I think one thing too is that the money back guarantee is what really sold me, is because um, if you guys don't know, they have a money back guarantee to where if you don't find a job after 6 months of completing the program, they basically refund you, which was, I think, one, a sign of confidence on TripleTen, but also the fact that that safety net was there for me, because if you guys have looked at boot camps before, depending on the company, they can be pretty expensive.
Definitely. I totally agree with that. And you touched on a lot of things that we're going to dive a little bit deeper into throughout this conversation.
Mhm.
Really excited to kind of jump in a little bit more. Are you getting feedback on my side? I'm just hearing feedback on
Um, well, I have some headphones in, and I was it's kind of cutting in and out. So let me try some different headphones real quick to see if that works. If not, I'll just do it without headphones. So bear
Okay.
with me 1 second.
No, that's totally okay. It doesn't matter if it's affecting you or me. If I'm affecting the followers, they might not be able to hear our conversation that we have today. So we'll give you a couple minutes to set
Yeah.
up there. I saw in the chat that we have people joining from all over the U.S., which
Okay.
is actually very cool. I saw that
Awesome.
we have quite a few people from Austin, Chapel Hill, Washington, Dallas, Texas, Florida. Another one from Austin, Texas. Very cool. How
Okay.
is the sound now on your end? I can hear, I'm not hearing feedback on my side, but can you hear me properly?
I could hear you properly, and also it could be because I had the fan on. So
Great. Okay, cool. Well, we'll just continue on. Thanks so much, Ty.
yeah.
Um, Jumping into this conversation a little bit deeper. So I know you touched on that you were in QA before, but what initially
Hmm.
sparked your interest in transitioning back into more of a QA coding focused career while you were working tech support for a while?
Well, QA was something I've always wanted to do for a long time. When I graduated with my associate's computer programming, I was first off looking for roles that were programming related, but actually a interviewer basically said, well, maybe I need to look into QA because my skills weren't that strong. And so that really resonated with me. And I was like, well, if I can't program well, then I would be more than happy to test the programs and tell the developers what's not working and have them fix it instead. Um, so there was that. And then, like I mentioned earlier, the role that I had, I was great at what I was doing for customer support, but there wasn't really room for advancement. And excuse me. and I felt that I needed to make a change because I wasn't really busy work-wise. Like there would be weeks where I wouldn't have anything to do, so I was literally getting paid to do nothing, which is great to a degree. But if I'm not using my skills or if I'm not growing, then I'm not going to really advance to where I wanted to be.
Totally. And I know a lot of people like to be challenged in their
Hmm.
career too. So that can be tough going to work and being like, I'm bored out of my mind. Like, I really
Yeah.
need a challenge. So totally understandable there. Can you tell me a little bit more about your research process, especially looking at those third-party websites like Career Karma that ultimately made you decide that like TripleTen was the right fit for you? I know you touched on that money back guarantee,
Hmm.
and we'll talk about that a little bit more in the
Yeah.
next question.
So yeah, so Career Karma is one of the places I looked at. I just basically looked up, just Google TripleTen reviews, and I can't remember one of the other sites, but it's obviously very similar. That basically had people leave reviews on the boot camps, and I felt that just based off what I saw, what people said positively about TripleTen, and the fact that it was remote. Um, I just felt like I just wanted to take a chance because we'll talk about it in a second, but I mean I think the main thing was that money back guarantee, so I felt like I wasn't going to be left in the dark if it didn't work out. But after just reading everything, I decided just to take a chance and see what happened.
Absolutely. And you're ready to upskill too. So you're like, I need to do something.
Yeah.
This option. Yeah,
Hmm.
that's super fair. So talking now a little bit more in depth about that money back guarantee, it was obviously a really important factor for that decision. How did
Hmm.
that really impact your confidence enrolling in the program and even like throughout the program when you got discouraged or like even at the end when you were job
Hmm.
searching?
Well, luckily, my experience, it wasn't discouraging because of my technical background. It was a lot easier for me to understand a lot of the topics. But um, basically, just that safety net of the money back guarantee um, helped me just continue on because one, when I first started doing it, it wasn't really until almost halfway through I was really learning new things and I was enjoying it. But it still did spark the my passion of doing QA again. Once I started getting back into, testing things, writing bug reports, just really getting into that knowledge again, um, I felt that, it's like, well, if I'm feeling this way in the beginning, this is obviously what the right decision was for me to do.
Definitely. Yeah, thanks for that. That's helpful to hear, especially for some people out there that may be like, ooh, I'm not really sure. Like that's really scary to
Hmm.
but obviously it worked out because you did get a job in tech.
Yeah.
And I know we're going to be talking about that a little
Hmm.
bit later, which is super exciting to hear about. But kind of just jumping back just slightly, how, as somebody who has already had this technical background, how did you find like the good balance between like refreshing your knowledge and learning new skills throughout the QA program? Like, was there a point where you're like,
Yeah.
oh, I know nothing past this point, or were you like, oh, I kind of know throughout the program?
Well, that was really, um, I think, the first three sprints for me. The first one is obviously just a rough overview of the software development lifecycle of what actually goes through methodology wise of what you would normally see working a QA job. I mean, this also goes hand in hand with the software development program you guys have. I would assume that's more than likely the first sprint for them as well, just kind of going over. It's like, well, this is what happens. So a lot of it was just a refresher. I mean, I would read this. I'm like, well, I already know this. It's like, this is easy for me. It wasn't really until the fourth sprint that was getting into API testing where I really struggled a little bit because I was learning something new. But API testing sprint was actually something I really enjoyed because part of it was actually what I was already kind of doing with my current job, but not to the degree of QA, but I could at least take what I knew from my current job and put it towards that lesson.
Definitely. That background knowledge is
Hmm.
very helpful. Like once you like have the basics already down.
Yeah.
But just a side question. Do you find that like this program is pretty beginner friendly from like obviously you had that background experience,
Hmm.
you can really separate the two, but just based on what
Yeah.
you learned?
So
I do think it would still be easy for someone who doesn't have a technical background to do QA. It's not it wouldn't really be difficult, I think, until you get into like maybe the coding sections of the automatic testing. I mean, obviously the API testing is a little difficult, but um, I've seen people who come through the program who don't have a technical background like me, and they're obviously nervous and not, scared that, they're not going to understand what's going on. But there's people who have gone through the program. Like when I was doing it, I was a senior student. So people that were coming in after me, I was helping answer their questions. I was, taking time out of my day to do like a quick video call with them to show them stuff. So they're not getting thrown into the deep end without like a life jacket. There's tutors, there's students who are willing to help each other understand stuff. So if anything, it's going to be difficult for some, but it's not um, unachievable.
Definitely. I love that analogy of like you're getting thrown into the deep end, but you have a life jacket, you have all this
Yeah.
support around you. So that was really, I'm gonna take that. That was a great analogy. So touching on obviously, so you've done a boot camp, you're done the boot camp, you've also went to college. What do you think are the biggest differences between the two, especially when it comes to job preparedness and career support?
So it had been a while since I've been in college when I did the boot camp, but I think with there are some similarities. I mean, since you have, classmates, in the program, you have, people you can reach out to get assistance on the topics. Um, as for the differences, I think the main thing is that it was a little more, I guess, lenient than school, because even though there were deadlines, there was leniency for students if they had issues, personal problems, stuff like that. Um, so, as obviously with college, you have a deadline. The professor, unless like it's like a real extreme emergency, a professor is not going to really give you any leniency on um, not submitting anything on time. So, and I also think with it being remote and you guys label it as part-time because you can do it on your own time. So that's good too. Because like I said earlier with my previous job where I wasn't really doing much, I was doing this while I was on the clock. So I was basically getting paid to go through the program through my company because I didn't really have a lot of work to do.
Definitely. And you're upskilling as you go. So technically it's a hack and I love that for you. That's
Yeah.
so great. Yeah, I love that. So talking a little, thank you for that answer too. I know a lot of
Hmm.
people do ask about what's the differences between like
Hmm.
college and a boot camp. So it's kind of nice to hear somebody who's done both and get their perspective on.
Yeah.
So touching a little bit on the career acceleration program, and I know a lot of people are asking like, what was it like? How long did you get a job? We're jumping into that
Hmm.
right now.
Yeah.
So stick around for that. But jumping into the career acceleration part of the program
Hmm.
seems to be a really big part in your job search and in like preparedness and
Yeah.
readiness. Can you share some specific ways that it helped you, like resume building or interview preparation?
Yeah. So that was also one of the reasons why I decided to join the program too, is that there was the career acceleration program. Because since I actually had a career coach that would help me fix my resume, help me curate a cover letter to my style, and really just answer any questions I had in any interview process. So that was the main thing is when if you guys when you guys go through this, if you're not already in the program, is that once you get to the career acceleration program, one of the first things they're going to have you do is update your resume, update your LinkedIn, you know, and basically help you get ready to do the job search. So before you even do the job search, they're going to help make sure that your resume is up to date. It's designed with how the job search is nowadays, and you have your LinkedIn designed in a way to catch the eye of people when you're doing applications. So it did play a big role in my job search. And the main thing was that it helped me fix my resume and show me tools that I could use for stuff like that.
Definitely. And that's a big help too, especially in a career for a long time and you're like, ooh, I don't really remember
Mm-hmm.
basics, or just a
Yeah.
second set of eyes can really help with that part as well.
Mm-hmm.
So jumping into the actual job application process and what that looked like, it's pretty heavy duty. So
Yeah.
just tell everybody how many jobs that you ended up applying for, if you remember.
Yeah. So when I was doing the job interview, I basically had a spreadsheet and I put every job application that I put in from the beginning of the career acceleration program till when I got hired. So it helped me keep a track of how many. So surprisingly, probably for some of you guys, I did 121 job applications, and I was doing 10 applications per week. Because that was one thing too with the program is you needed to do a certain amount every week because you have to get yourself out there when you're doing the job search because it's not going to be easy for any job search really, but you can't just do one or two applications and think it's going to be good. I don't remember the statistic, but I think when you're going through the career acceleration program, they were like, well, you do 10 applications and statistically like one or two of them, you'll probably hear back from someone. So the more you do, the higher chance you have of someone reaching out to you about interviewing or at least learning more about the job.
Definitely. And that's a ton of applications to go through. So
Mm-hmm.
how do you maintain your motivation during that time? So I know after a couple months, like that really adds up and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, like if you're not getting calls back, how did
Mm-hmm.
you maintain that motivation during your job search?
Yeah. So the motivation was, well, there's a few things. One, obviously, I was like, well, if I don't get a job, there's a money back guarantee. There's that safety net we talked about. So I was like, well, if this doesn't work out, then at least that is going to happen. Excuse me. But also, there are people that I've seen who graduated before me get a job. There were people who graduated after me who luckily found a job sooner than I did because obviously the job search is going to be different for everybody. But I knew that I had the qualifications, even though I didn't hear back from really almost any of my applications. I was like, I knew that eventually something was going to come my way when the time was right. So I knew that if I just keep putting my foot forward, it was eventually going to happen, which of course it did.
Definitely. There was a light at the end of the tunnel and you were
Mm-hmm.
towards that light
Yeah,
regardless of what happened. That's super fair. You're like, something's going to bite
yeah,
at some point, which is
yeah.
a very fair, I feel like, thought process to have. And I know that people also say that like tech is really hard to get into right now. The field's been
Mm-hmm.
for a couple years. They're not wrong with saying that. It does
Yeah,
definitely take, and
yeah,
you're showing us that it does. Like
yeah,
put in
yeah.
the
They're not
I
wrong.
girl.
It's like before I even did this program, I was applying every now and then for over a year with what I had just with an associate's and with um, the internship I had as QA. So I felt like obviously at least that with what I had that wasn't working. So that was one reason why I also chose the program was it would at least help give me some more knowledge and some more experience. But yeah, they're not wrong that the job search is tough. Um, it's I don't want to say it is what it is, but it is surprising though that for tech and for some other career paths, it's a kind of crazy to see how hard it is for someone to find a job, even if you're really qualified.
Definitely. I would totally agree with that. Like one of my close friends is in HR and she has probably applied to more or about the same amount of jobs that you have too. So
Hmm.
I feel like there's definitely been an impact in industries. So it may be the tech, it may be all jobs, but I know that the
Yeah.
job market is tough and you will have to put in work and we want to make sure that
Yeah.
people jumping into the know that jumping into it. But jumping into the interview process, because I know when
Hmm.
people jump into after they're done the what does that look like? I have no clue what I'm getting myself to. So you went through multiple rounds of interviews for your current role. What were
Hmm.
more challenging interview scenarios you encountered, and how did you handle them?
Well, most of the scenarios, luckily it was situational. Um, I didn't have to do like any test or anything like that. The first interview was just with one of the HR reps from the company. The second was with the dev manager of the team. The third was with the manager again, with a couple of members of the development team. Also, obviously, to help see how I mesh with them, how I answer their questions. Um, and then the fourth was with the manager and the VP of the tech department. Um, so I think really the tech interview, all that really was just situational. They were just basically asking me questions of how would I, prioritize my testing, and I would just tell them like, well, based off the criticality, whatever's higher, that would be done first, whatever's medium, second, whatever's lowest, that can wait until everything else is taken care of. They would also ask me questions. I can't remember, but there were some questions where I would tell them, like, I don't know the answer, but I'm willing to look it up. And I think what also helped was with what this company provides, um, I was able to ask a question about it in my last interview, because what I do is I test the software and equipment for self-checkout machines for grocery stores. So depending on where you guys live, you could potentially be using the software that my company provides to grocery stores. Um, but when I was actually going at a Kroger, I thought about, well, how am I going to test an actual transaction? Because since I was paying with my debit card, I was like, well, how am I going to do that? So I was able to take that thought I had and provide them a question which showed that I was thinking about the software. So it at least helped show that I was interested as well.
That is such a good example, and that is very cool what you do for work. I don't think we actually
Hmm.
discussed
Mm-mm.
or you have your job. So thank you for sharing that. That
Yeah.
is very neat. Do you have any advice for people that are going through like a similar job search, or maybe they're like on job application 200, or
Hmm.
even when it comes to preparedness of those technical interviews?
I think one is, like I said earlier, is that the job search is unfortunately different for everyone. It's just because you didn't get a job sooner than someone else doesn't mean that you're not qualified. So kind of like me, if you're going through the job search through TripleTen, you have the career coach, you have the money back guarantee, but also you just have that support from everyone within TripleTen, because obviously the main reason that they are in this business is to help people find jobs in tech. Um, if they didn't want to do that, then one, I don't think they would offer, career acceleration program. They wouldn't offer a money back guarantee. They would just say, here's a boot camp, and then after that, you're on your own. So I think there's at least that. And then with preparing for the technical interviews, I mean, what I was doing was I was kind of going through some of the lessons, just refreshing my knowledge on things. And then you have your career coach to help you with mock interviews. I think I did one with my career coach, but you basically, provide them information on the company that, you're interviewing for, and they'll help curate questions that could potentially be asked to you. So when it comes to preparing, I think, just making sure you're reviewing the program topics, you're working with your career coach. You can even research in, um, interview questions related to a specific part of the role that you're applying for. So there's ways to do it.
Definitely. Those are some really good tips and advice that
Hmm.
people can mark down and definitely take away from this
Yeah.
conversation. We're down to our last two questions of this live stream.
Hmm.
If anybody has any questions for Ty, please feel free to pop them in the chat now, especially if they're related to job search, because he's obviously an expert in that at this point. But now that you're working as a QA engineer for a company And I don't know if we said this either. You're working out of,
Mm-mm.
but you're in Georgia.
Yeah.
How TripleTen helped prepare you for this role, and what favorite part about your day-to-day work?
Um, well, one, that was one of the things I wanted in a job anyways, it being remotely. Um, Now, as preparing me for my role, I think just the knowledge that they provided to where I could tell the interviewers what I knew, what I didn't know. Um, I am obviously interacting with them every day through Microsoft Teams. So I guess you could say, interacting with the students and the tutors through Discord, at least interacting with someone remotely instead of in person, talking to people that way helped me figure out what I need to do in communication through typing instead of talking like we are now. Um, but I think the main thing is that what TripleTen helped prepare me was the career acceleration, um, the reigniting of my passion for QA by going through the boot camp, and just what they talked about in the lessons. Obviously, the program is updating constantly. I'm still seeing some new lessons that are changing with the times. So at least for you guys, it's not going to be something that was talked about 20 years ago. Um, but so I think if anything, TripleTen tries to stay current with what's popular in the QA role. So if anything, that will help prepare you for the role too.
Definitely. That's really fair. Thanks for sharing
Hmm.
that. There's somebody that asked if you search for your all of your jobs, like where you apply to jobs. They're saying that there's a couple they're running into fake jobs on LinkedIn. Like, did you apply for majority of your jobs on LinkedIn, or did you apply
Yeah.
elsewhere?
So yeah, most of mine was through LinkedIn, but um, I also did stuff through Indeed. Um, at the end, my career coach told me about a website called OTTA, OTTA. It actually just changed names. So I can search for it real quick just to let people know. Um, they changed the name to Welcome to the Jungle. So it was OTTA, but now it's Welcome to the Jungle. But I don't know why they changed it, but that's what it is. But that website, it was more focused on startup companies. So that was nice to see job applications through that. So I was using that near the end of my job search. As for finding the fake jobs, obviously that's hard nowadays. That there are obviously people that try to take advantage of us who are trying to find a job, which obviously sucks. But what I did was use Glassdoor. So if you guys have never heard of Glassdoor, Glassdoor.com is a site where people can leave salary reviews on their roles, reviews on the companies themselves. So I used that to also get a feel of companies that I really wanted to interview for. I even did it with my current job. So it at least helped you get an idea of what the actual employees thought of the company, not what was shown on a company website. So I think that would help. Other than that, I don't know what else I could have done to look for fake jobs other than people posting on LinkedIn saying, watch out for this company, watch out for this job application. And obviously, use your better judgment because they obviously are getting better with how they're wording things. It's not as easy to tell what is fake and what's not anymore. But you can kind of tell depending on what they're asking of you. So obviously, if they're wanting to get, your bank information and everything, obviously that's a no. There was actually a message I got on LinkedIn. The guy was like, "Oh, well, we can get you these jobs. All you have to do is give us your bank information, and we'll put out these requests or project requests, and we'll have developers work on the project for you, and you just get paid doing nothing because we'll handle the project for you. And obviously that's not real, but unfortunately people have fallen for that.
Definitely. Those are really, really good tips and takeaways. I think Glass
Hmm.
and the Jungle are two really good people.
Hmm.
We use Glassdoor a lot, and really reputable. So I think that was a really great tip. And I think
Hmm.
the Jungle, they branded, it sounds like the jungle out there with the jungle.
Yeah, probably. That's probably true. I don't remember what they said in the email, but yeah.
That's funny. I really like that. Last question for you today, Ty, and then I'll let you go for the day. But
Hmm.
looking back at your journey, would you recommend TripleTen to somebody in a similar position to where you were before? And what would you say to somebody considering making a career switch into tech?
Yeah, so I would definitely recommend TripleTen. I actually have a friend's sister is actually going through the QA program now. Um, but I would recommend it for someone who's wanting to get into tech. It's one of the shorter programs that they're offering, but also TripleTen's offering a lot more than just programming and QA. They have business analytics. There was now a cybersecurity program that they just started. So if anyone's interested, kind of like in the IT field, cybersecurity would probably be the way to go. I don't remember how long that one is, but that was one of the reasons why I chose this, because it was spaced out well to where you weren't being force fed the subjects. You have tutors, you have students to help you out. Um, there's the success managers to where if you're having any complications, if you need to take a break, they'll do what they can to help you. Um, and then for making a career, like if this is what you want to do, then do it. Um, if even if you don't have experience in the tech field, it doesn't hurt to change. Um, there's people that you probably see on the TripleTen website. There were teachers who became programmers. Nowadays, in today's time, you don't have to go to college to get into tech. There are plenty of people who self-taught themselves watching YouTube videos of other people, finding free programs they can do to test stuff. So TripleTen is just one of the ones you have to pay for, but it was worth it because I got a QA role. It helped reignite the passion that I wanted for QA. And the fact that there was the career acceleration, it helped the job search be a little bit easier for me because I had that support.
That is some good advice. And we always recommend to, like, if you want to go the free YouTube route or just we are
Hmm.
in support of that. Like whatever is best for your specific learning journey, we
Yeah.
want on. But I think you nailed it too. Like that support after is really valuable. Um,
Hmm.
Jump in. So whatever your learning journey takes you, we're here to support you every stop of the way. But I want to say thank you so much for your
Yeah.
time today. It was such an amazing conversation. And if anybody has any questions, please feel free to shoot us a DM after. We're more than happy to answer anything. And hopefully everybody has a happy Halloween. I know
Yeah.
that's coming up today. And other than that, any last words?
No, I'm good. Just if you guys have questions, just reach out to them. They'll help you out. And, if you join the QA program, I'm still in the Discord, so you can always hit me up if you have any questions.
Love that. Good plug. Thanks, Ty. Well, thanks
Thanks.
everybody for joining us today, and hopefully everybody has a great rest of their week.
Bye, everyone.
Awesome. Bye.